I think anyone with half a brain can look at the Jets situation and see that Robert Saleh had stronger feelings for Lafleur than maybe the rest of the front office had. How will Douglas and Saleh right this flight?
Jets, Jets! Yeah, good buddy, best friend. I mean, that's what it is. I was told that there was a disconnect in the Jets front office, which, is not unusual. Basically, the front office, disconnect between the front office and Robert Saleh. The front office, a la Joe Douglas, wanted Mike Lafleur gone for a couple of reasons. Felt that Zach Wilson's inability to develop, Zach Wilson's failures were the fault of Mike Lafleur. Robert Saleh wanted his best friend to stay, wanted to give him another year. Now, the feeling in the Jets front office is Robert Saleh can basically work with any defensive player. He can take any defensive player and put it in his system and then mold the system to get the most from that defensive player. And Saleh proved that because he got a lot of production from very ordinary players this year. Everybody talked about, Sauce Gardner. Everybody talked about Quentin Williams, who were very productive. But there were some very average players who also played well. Right. It's a contradiction, or contrary to that, with Mike LaFleur's system, LaFleur needs specific players for his system. He needs a type of player to make his system work. He needs zone blocking linemen. Anything other than a pure zone blocking lineman, his offensive system isn't going to work. He needs sharp route runners at the receiver position. Any guy that can't come in and run scissor sharp routes is not going to fit in the system. And because of that, there's a very small margin of error. And what they want to get a Robert Saleh type of defensive coordinator to run that offense.
Welcome to Jets Talk. My name's Ryan. I'll be your pilot. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you've been here before, welcome back. I love having you here. Boys and girls, that was Pro Football Network's Tony Pauline talking about the Jets offensive coordinator situation, Jets front office, a little bit of a disconnect between Robert Saleh and the GM. And I guess Woody Johnson as well. And that's not something that I think seems overly shocking to any Jet fan by any stretch of the imagination, but I think this video clip provides a little more context with what we were talking about. So obviously, the Jet fan base, the coaching staff, the GM feels like that number 2 overall pick in Zach Wilson. Actually, let me rephrase that. Joe Douglas thinks that number 2 overall pick in Zach Wilson has a lot of talent there that is untapped potential. The fan base may feel a different way because we're rabid and toxic and crazy. But the fan base could look on and say, yeah, there was probably a disconnect in that locker room and in that organization overall. But I like the context and the things that they bring up here. Robert Saleh going from year 1 to year 2, they fixed this defense like no other. They went from the worst in the league to a top 5 defense. Now, a lot of that had to do with 4 brand new pieces in the secondary. You get Carl Lawson back. You bring in Quan Alexander. You have JJ. You have Clemens. Like everything kind of clicking all together. And then Robert Saleh is able to manipulate his defensive schemes to fit the talent that's on the defense. That's what a good coach is supposed to be able to do. Mike LaFleur showed an inability to really do that on a consistent basis. Like how many times do we see a Braxton Berrios end around and not someone that's really, really good out in, not that Berrios is bad in space, but like Garrett Wilson and Elijah Moore should be getting those end arounds because they are clearly tough to tackle in a phone booth. And then we didn't even see Denzel Mims. Like Mims has the size and the speed to be running fades and deep routes where you could just bomb the ball up to him. And I feel like we never got to see play action and see them take advantage of Mims' skill set after being very excited about him after his rookie year when we thought Gase didn't use him well. So with a new offensive coordinator comes a new way to run your schemes and to kind of work your players and everything. Because think about it, not even just Zach Wilson, Denzel Mims, Elijah Moore. You could argue Becton wasn't a huge fan of LaFleur either. He didn't look great in the 2 camps and practices that we got to see with the LaFleur offense. And a lot of that has to do with the razor thin margin of error that Pauline talked about in this clip. And that has to do with the receivers running routes. That like Denzel Mims was not the cleanest route runner, so him running those deep fades was never going to be an option because he could not do the little things on the offense that Elijah Moore or Garrett Wilson or some of these other guys were able to display in practice and training camp and whatnot. And then on the offensive side of the line portion, when you run a wide zone scheme, there is a lot relying on having continuity. 5 stable guys on the offensive line and 5 guys that are unified. You have to know what the guy next to you is doing. Otherwise, you're getting a free blitzer or a free runner hitting your running back, hitting your quarterback. That's not good. That's why they like the mobile quarterback in that style of offense. But it is very, very difficult. And when you have an injury like the Jets have had, it is very tough to emulate what a healthy offensive line that has been trained in the system is able to do. It's not quite as plug and play friendly as some other systems. So I think what the Jets are going to try and do is they're going to try and bring in the best offensive coordinator for the quarterback, Zach Wilson, and for the potential veteran quarterback that they're going to try and attract. So I think there's going to be a few names that are going to be out there. You'll see my video dropping later today on my top 5 candidates. But then I think they will focus on utilizing the talent that's already here, so that way we're not reinventing the wheel and trying to make a brand new system with brand new pieces that have to come in. This can be a plug-and-play style offense. We have so much talent on this team. We saw Robert Saleh's pitch for the offensive coordinator, top 5 defense. We're going to fix the offensive line. We're going to try like heck to get the quarterback. Woody Johnson's going to spend any amount of money. I love it. So was there a disconnect in the front office? Yeah. Do I think it's lingering? Probably not. They mentioned Mike Lafleur is Robert Saleh's best friend. I don't know if that's the case because Matt Lafleur was Robert Saleh's best man at his wedding, and then Mike Lafleur is just the little brother. So I'm sure they're very close and tight, and he's close with the family, obviously. But I don't know if it's necessarily like a bad blood type of situation. I think both sides kind of understand they sort of got screwed by pretty bad quarterback play, and then look, LaFleur, first time calling plays in, these 2 years here with the Jets, just a little over his head, I think. I think he needed that veteran presence above him to help him guide the way, just like any player on the roster would also need. So, guys, let me know your thoughts on this disconnect in the front office. What do you think of Pauline's comments? Let me know in the comment section down below. And as always, go Jets.